Today, I'm talking with Stephanie Wells. She is the co-founder and chief technology officer of Strategy 11. Strategy 11 provides the businesses with tools they need to build complex web applications without breaking the bank. You've probably heard of their two most popular products, which are Formidable Forms, and then they recently acquired WP Tasty. It's a plugin that lets you add recipes on your website. And after building the business for over 13 years, she's here to share 7 tips on how to stay motivated while growing your business. So let's dive in. It's one of my favorite topics right now because honestly, it's one of those weird things where we always, as new business people, are trying to grow a business, trying to start a business. That's our focus. How do I grow it? How do I get it off the ground? And we don't really think enough about, and once it's off the ground, even if it's just 2 inches, how do you stay motivated in getting the business going? And so that's why I'm really excited to have you on today. So
I think this is a great topic for me.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. I was wondering if you could just give a little bit of a background for our audience to let them know what exactly is Formidable Forms and how you got started with it.
So I was a nurse, and when my first baby was born, I couldn't bring myself to go back to work. My cousin, Blair Williams, he's member press and Pretty Links, and he's married to my cousin. Not that I call him my cousin, but anyway, so we were living in the same neighborhood at the time, and he was looking for subcontractors for some contracts he had. And he was looking for anybody who had even interest in HTML or anything. And I wasn't interested. I was sure it would be too hard. But I went along because I had nothing to do. Going from working full time to being home with a baby all day is quite the adjustment. So anyway, I went along to the first little class that Blair gave for Steve, my husband. And after that first class, I realized that it could be fun. And so I started learning it and wrote my first website. And I hadn't heard of WordPress at this point. Just wrote a $400 website for my sister. And I loved it. And then I just kept going. And then we eventually started picking up our own contracts. And our first contract that I picked up is where we were introduced to WordPress. And they wanted several different things. They wanted to build like dentist sites where they could handle the team page without getting into the HTML. This was before the days of custom fields or any of that. And so that's where Formidable started. It started as an entirely back-end way of separating the HTML from the content. So over various client projects, it just grew and grew into different things. And I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have put as much in it as I did, but everything was like, oh, that could work. And then the last step was adding the front end form so it could be a actual releasable product. So backwards than all the other form builders out there. I wouldn't say it's a form builder, but it is. Anyway, it was not designed to be just a form builder. It was designed as more of a content manager.
Yeah. And actually, as a side note to all that, it's one of my most favorite tools to create tutorials for our audience because so many people, they want to know, how do I create a directory? How do I create? They're looking for a whole application type thing. And a couple of years ago, there was this big push for no code. And I smile because Formidable Forms on with WordPress is like the perfect no code solution in a lot of ways that people can create something. So just a little side note on that. It's so much fun to work with, especially with the views part.
I love when I get to build projects.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I do some of the application templates sometimes. And like this last week, we released PDFs.
Oh,
you can
I saw that.
Create a PDF from a view.
Yeah.
How awesome. And so I created a couple certificates and it was super fun.
Yeah.
And I love when I can create like full projects.
Yeah. So start to finish, you've been doing from the HTML and stuff on over 13 years now, right? And so in that, you've probably come up with little ways to stay motivated. And I was wondering if we could go into some of the tips that you might have for our audience on just really how to stay motivated when you're building a business and building something like this online.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it hasn't always been, I don't know, sunshines and roses. There's definitely ups and downs along the way. And most of the downs, I guess, are more helpful to learn from. But let's see. So one of my biggest things is to not do it alone. That we have, and so much help. We have the WordPress community, going to conferences. I went to Cabo Press, I don't know, 7 years ago. I don't know. It's been time. It just, I don't know when it was, but a while ago. And between Cabo Press and the Pressnomic conferences, I think those were super great for for meeting people with similar issues, similar problems, and to hear their solutions and to learn I'm not the only one dealing with these issues. And Kava Press was also what led to Syed joining up with, or us joining up with Syed, and just having that extended time to get to know people is super awesome to not have to do it all on your own.
Yeah. I think communities become really important nowadays, right?
Yeah, for sure. Especially with everybody working remotely, and that's outside of your immediate team. For those who have a team like that's what there is. and I've had Blair all along too to talk shop, and he's been a great mentor to me. He pushed me he was releasing Pretty Links at the same time I was releasing Formidable, and he told me how he was doing it and gave me his code for his licensing, and he even named it, and was just so encouraging to get a product out the door. And let's see. Yeah. And so backing up. So on the flip side of that, I feel like the times that I have tried to do it alone has led to burnout. So like right before joining up with Saya, I wasn't in a spot where I did feel burned out and done. and so it couldn't have come at a better time. And I think I just felt like I was working so hard and getting nowhere. And it helped so much to have another perspective that was aligned to show me where to head and how to get that traction. And that helped a ton.
That's awesome. And I think a lot of people, they do, I don't know why, but we think that we have to do everything by ourselves, and that if we don't do it by ourselves, then it's not we didn't really make it. And I love your first tip of being like, yeah, don't do that. Seek mentorship, seek help, get some other people sharing where they are in their journey, and like even with Blair sharing, don't recreate this with the licensing. Here's my code, so you don't have to redo it yourself. So that's actually awesome. What would be?
Yeah, so that's been super cool.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what would be your second tip for us?
So moving on from that is to avoid that burnout, that spinning out, just spinning your wheels, is to have a clear vision. And once you have all that feedback and help and advice from everywhere, customers, mentors, other people in the community, is deciding what to do with that. And that's still not easy, where there are so many thousands of things that you could be doing in any given moment. But yeah, so getting a perspective on that and maintaining a clear vision of how you'll get from where you are now to where you want to be, and just making sure you're spending time on the right things, whether that takes research and data to find what to be working on, and even where you want to be. And I can't say I always have a super clear vision of where I want things to go, because things have just been beyond my expectations. But
when you do work on vision, do you have a physical representation of your vision, like on a board, a whiteboard or something? Does that help you at all?
So I don't usually whiteboard it, but just like a lot in Asana, just brain dumping everything, and then just prioritizing as possible, like going through and evaluating what would be the most important to whether it's taking a load off our team, or taking like a super highly requested feature, or something that helps us compete better or be innovative that people don't know to ask. Or anyway, so just so many different ideas that it's just so hard to find time to fit it all in.
Yeah, that's actually cool. You have way more ideas than you can handle, and a lot of other people, they're the other way. They're like, I don't know what to do. I don't have any ideas. So it's a good problem to have. And I was just curious, because a lot of people, they don't have a location. So you have it in Asana, but you probably go to Asana like daily. And so you always are seeing the vision that you're going for, so that you can stay on track. Typically, I'll write something to myself and I'll email it, and then I forget about it. So it's like really hard to maintain that vision. So it's cool that you have it.
And with all those millions of things, and again, not doing it alone, that are my team is a super important part of, and delegating, being able to delegate and have a strong team that I know I can depend on. That I can't, at this point, I can't have my hands in everything I've tried. And so at this point, I've had to let go of a lot. Even just getting out of support was a big step where I had to let go of a lot, where I couldn't be in there seeing every support ticket, and I couldn't be I don't know, in control of knowing that every single customer experience was awesome. So that's a hard step, but it was a huge step in moving the company forward and being able to trust my team to take care of those things, even if it's not exactly the way I would have done it. And again, on the flip side of that, building a great team is hard and takes time. And not everyone we've hired has been great for us. And I'm sure they're great in other places, but not everyone has been great for us. And it can be so demotivating to have somebody on the team, or even just that I'm working with some way, not even necessarily on the team, but that I dread talking to, or that I dread any interactions with, that can just be so demoralizing. And it took me a while to realize that the whole team was feeling this too. That, yeah, not just me. And that letting people go who don't really belong is a huge benefit to not just the way I was feeling, to not have to dread it, and to have that energy left to do good things rather than just spending my energy on dread and having my energy sucked by the energy vampires that I don't want to deal with. But anyway, so having the right people that you know you can trust and delegate to and depend on has made a huge difference.
Yeah, I feel like we could probably go deeper into tip number 3, maybe in a future episode, because it sounds like it's really a challenge, and it probably is for a lot of people. The thing that you started that you loved doing, now you're growing it, and so you can't do as much of that. You have to do a little bit of the leading and the bigger parts. So you have to let things go. So that just seems like it's its own difficulty that you're still working on, that it ultimately is best for the company.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, and where I never intended for this to happen. I never intended to have a team of 20, 22, 23 people. And yeah, so I never intended for any of this. And I never planned to be a manager, and just loved the code. Anyway, so it's definitely made it's a big difference. It's changed a lot over the years. You do have this space, the bandwidth, where you can be moving on, looking elsewhere, looking outside of the day-to-day. My next step would be to keep learning and read, to get other perspectives, and to have time when you can just experiment. And like, I love, like, sometimes when I wake up too early or whatever, and my team doesn't expect me, and I feel like it's extra time. I love that I can just pick up one of my own projects and just play around with it. Like, I spent a couple hours on a ChatGPT integration into our support form, and just, I don't know, so there's so many fun projects. And then I love it too, because then I can be doing dev. Like, I love the time that I still do get in doing development. And so I think that's a big benefit to me, so I can stay excited and find new things that would, even if it's not anything that we ever launch or whatever, it's just more information, more perspectives, more than just getting in a rut. Along those lines of working on those things that you love, is that when you do release those things, the things that you're excited about, that excitement can be contagious to the team, to the community, and that you're not just doing what everybody else is doing and keeping up, and that there's fun new things, and just that that everybody, I don't know, just doing things that are fun and exciting is a daily motivator to me, to be able to wake up and be like, oh, I get to work on that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Now, in doing things that you love and having the clear goal, what would be your next tip on just keeping up and staying motivated and everything?
Along those lines of working on something you love, it's easy to get distracted. It's hard to make sure those things aren't distracting to the overall vision. So setting new goals and staying, like, checking in on those goals, reading up those goals, making sure you always have those in mind, and know if those side projects, I guess, are gonna help meet those goals, help get there. So as far as setting those goals, like, to, even whether that's on a 5-year goal or a 1-year goal or a week goal or quarter, so any time span, I like to write down the goal and then write up, just think through how I'll get there. And then I love being able to, I don't know, have a visual representation of what I did that day or that week or whatever, and how that's, I don't know, built and continued to help reach the bigger goals.
Yeah, bigger goals are helpful. Is that one of the reasons? Now, WP Tasty, that's a plugin for recipe bloggers, and it's one that you've recently acquired. With setting new goals, would that be one of the reasons why you acquired WP Tasty recently?
So I guess backing up. So yes, but so the goals is, I think the thing I love about goals is the challenge, and that meeting and completing those challenges is just so rewarding, and just again, just a cycle of remotivating. So when it comes to acquisitions, and again, that's just basically accomplishing a challenge and being able to see what I can do to turn a company around, or what. It's just such a fun challenge to be able to set a goal of, yeah, I want to make my money back on this acquisition within whatever time period. And these are the steps I want to take to get there. And it's just a fun challenge that brings me so much satisfaction to complete those challenges.
Yeah, and I think the recipe blogging industry, they love that plugin. I'm in a few groups and they're always talking about it. So when you had the acquisition, I was like, oh, they're going to really love everything that Steph and the team will do for that. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, we've actually got a fun release today, one of our first new feature releases in Tasty Recipes. So it's fun to have, and one of the challenges of getting a team in place for that too. And now I feel like we can just be rolling and cranking out fun stuff. Yeah. So with those goals and challenges, once anything's accomplished, whether it's a daily goal or a weekly goal or whatever, any of those things, finding a way to celebrate those, and to, I don't know, to be able to look back and say, here's what I did, and this is cool, and to celebrate yourself. And so I mentioned I have a planner. I digitized a paper planner that I was using for a really long time, the Full Focus Planner. I really enjoy, or it guides on a lot of these things of plan the week and look back on the previous week. What are the biggest 3 accomplishments? What happened this past week that was good? What happened that should be celebrated? And what happened that you want to keep doing, or what? Anyway, just a weekly kind of review, check-in of that kind of just makes me stop and think, yeah, what was good?
And also I did all of this. I think we forget because it's all digital, all that we've done. So that's perfect.
Yeah, I love looking back and seeing all my check marks.
Yes. Yeah.
And even just making those check marks, like a lot of times I'll write something down just after I did it, just so I can check it off.
I have that right here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that, just to be able to see visually. I think it's huge. Like I like my written planner way more than like Asana, because in Asana you check it off and you see the little unicorn fly across the screen sometimes, and that's cool, but then it's gone, and it has to be gone because there's so much in there. But yeah, so I like having the daily record basically of what I did, and to be able to look back and see, oh, I felt like this day went to nothing, but I actually did get stuff done. And then also on the team side of things, we have a channel in Slack where everybody will post like small wins and cool things that somebody else did that helped them out, or big things too, but it's usually filled with things like, oh, awesome, they helped me in support, this ticket was so hard and they helped, or even just like a shout out for giving shout outs to everyone. That's so cool that you're always looking out for everyone else. And so yeah, it's super positive. And we also have a reviews channel where we drop in all of our 5-star reviews, and so just to keep the feedback public to everyone, so everyone on the team can always be seeing what our customers are saying too.
So once you celebrate the wins, you've done something really big. What would be like tip number 7 for us?
Yeah, and after all of that is to take breaks, take time off, I don't even stop and eat lunch. I'm not very good at that. I learned the hard way that when I was not taking breaks, that affected my team negatively too. That some people on my team didn't feel like they could take breaks because they didn't think I was ever taking breaks. So basically it became like I was pushing my team into burnout without even realizing it, because I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting them to work 6 days a week or whatever, but some people on the team, were working too much and not taking breaks because they didn't think I was. And anyway, so we turned that around a little bit by making the time off a little bit more public, like so that the team knew when I was out. and that made a big difference to help everybody take more time off. And it's been definitely a positive culture shift there too, to encourage the time off in our team and individually.
I had an interview with Jared Atchison with WP Forms, and one of the things he was talking about, very similar, and it was a big aha moment for me as well. If they're doing a big push, some kind of new feature or something going on, and so the team was doing a big push, they could also look at it as, okay, now you did a big push, let's readjust you and take you out of the game, let you have a breather for maybe the next month or the next week, just to take a break so you can recharge. Because letting them know that they're not expected to just continue to just keep going even after one small win in a celebration. So I really like that you're also showcasing take breaks as a team, whether it's minor breaks away from work altogether or even just slowing down after you've done a big push. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's something we're still trying to figure out too. Is once we finish something big, then what?
Exactly. I know it's always like higher, and that's what causes the burnout, right?
Yeah, and it's just tricky to manage that and to celebrate when the team is remote. And anyway, so I've been trying to figure that out lately too, is just how to celebrate the big wins, to be continued.
So are there any tips that you think that we should know about that we didn't already cover?
I did just have one more suggestion, that I'm backing up to when, and as I mentioned, when there is so many directions that you could go, or so many directions that you should be going, that just to kind of take a step back and slow down a little bit when your to-do list for that day is 20 items long, and just to take it one task at a time, kind of just, I try to just laser focus on, I'm just going to block everything else out and just focus on one thing, and not even think about all the other things that I have to do, and just to avoid getting too overwhelmed, or and then when that does happen, I realize something's not going right, and I need to get more off my plate. And again, step back and make a plan for how to delegate more.
As you've heard, once you get the business off the ground, staying motivated and consistent can be a challenge. But as Steph shares, there are several tips that you can use to keep going. We'll have all the links in the show notes. And if you want to create a directory website that uses her Formidable Forms plugin, then you can watch this video next on how to create a restaurant directory in WordPress. And thanks for listening.